Hello and welcome back to Desert DIY. If you are new here, my name is Cory. Today I'm going to be making over this really huge bench. This bench was like 6 feet long and massive. I have never worked on a bench this large before. It was donated to me by somebody who was getting a new dining set, and this piece is too large for me to donate to my cause of helping young adults who are aging out of foster care furnish their homes. So when that happens, I sell pieces on Facebook Marketplace, and this was one of those pieces. And I will let you know in the end how much it sold for. But the first thing I'm going to do is take the cushion off. And my daughter here is coming to help me to tighten the legs up after I got the cushion off. I just wanted to get her started on learning how to do these things, and she was really interested in learning how to do furniture makeovers now. I think maybe just watching Mama do it so much, she's wanting to start doing it too. She also helps me paint later with my spray paint gun, and I think that's going to be a good example for you guys to show you that it's so easy, even a 10-year-old can do it. But now I'm going to sand it down. I'm just using 220 grit, and this is just to prep this base for paint. For this base, I am going to be going with a gold color. It's kind of like a brushed gold. It's so hard to explain how this gold looks. You're just going to have to see it for yourself. But I'm testing out a paint that I've never used before, and it was a bit of a learning curve using this kind of paint, because usually when I paint with metallics, I'll use a regular spray paint in a can. But this one was a different kind of paint, and it's actually a paint that you can roll on, so you don't need a paint sprayer for it, which is why I wanted to test it out for you guys. Now I'm just going to wipe off all that dust, and that way I can go ahead and paint after that. If you are new to my channel, I am so happy that you are here, and I would love it if you would consider hitting subscribe. I love to do furniture flips and thrift flips and makeovers of all sorts, and I like to do like the worst looking furniture and make it look really awesome. But I have a goal this year that I'm trying to hit. I am trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, so I would really love it if you could help me out with that goal. Now it is time for me to put my base coat on for that gold paint. And when you're painting with certain golds, you have to put different colored base coats underneath. The gold that I'm using has a bit of a silver undertone to it, so I'm going to use a black as a base coat. If your gold is a much more red-toned gold, then you would use red as your base coat. And this little handle that I'm using on my spray paint can, I actually got suggested to use this by some of my viewers, and I finally went and found one, and it has never been the same. I've never looked back. I use this every single time I use the spray paint can. It helps to create a really even finish, and it doesn't hurt your hands. And I have it linked in my Amazon store down below if you guys wanted to buy it online, but you can also find it at places like Walmart or other hardware stores. I ran out of that first color spray paint. It was called Dark Walnut, which it appears almost black, and I had another different colored black spray paint, so I'm just going to use what I have. This second one is called Canyon Black, I believe, but both of them are in the same sheen, so they're both satin finish, which makes me able to do that. If I were to use like a glossy one underneath this metallic paint that I'm going to do, then it probably wouldn't have stuck as well, because glossy finishes are very like shiny and slippery, and things don't stick to them very well. In fact, that is why we prep by sanding first, is to get rid of glossy finishes. But now while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and iron out the fabric that I'm using to recover the seat cushion. And this iron, I've had some people comment about it saying that it was like a very impressive iron. It really is, and I got it from Costco. It is a Rowenta brand, but they are a little bit pricey, so I think I spent about $60 on this iron. And I know what you're probably thinking, like, wow, that is an insane amount of money for an iron. But if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I do upholstery all the time, and I need something that's going to be able to get out like really severe wrinkles in a really short amount of time, and this one is just like commercial grade. I don't know how else to explain it. But it's a really great iron, and it gets all the wrinkles out really, really quickly, and I love it. And this fabric that I'm using is a very, very light blue, and it was curtains in my master bedroom. And I eventually changed to do more of a navy blue in that room. So I just saved these curtains to use as a upholstery fabric. So that is where these came from. And I love to use curtains on doing upholstery because they're usually very tough fabric. And they're usually very thick fabric, and this one even has a lining underneath it that's white. And I always use batting when I'm doing upholstery, when you put it over the cushion, or when I'm recovering over a seat cushion without removing the fabric. This was covered in a fake leather, so there's nothing that got through to make it dirty on the inside. So there's really no reason for me to change the padding, and padding on a piece this big and this thick would have been very, very expensive. So when this happens, there is no need to rip it all apart. Look at this. I just wanted to show you guys that things don't always work out perfectly. But I guess I didn't push the little, I don't even know, the slidey part in all the way when I put in the staples first. So it popped right out when I was putting it in. And now I'm going to just staple on all of that batting, and that way I can camouflage the buttons and the different textures that were on the seat, and that it'll just look nice and smooth. It's a really cool hack that I always use, and I just one day was experimenting and thought, you know what if I put batting on there? What would it do? And it worked out amazing, and I've never looked back since. Here is how I do the corners. I wanted to show you guys in real time how I do the corners on my pieces and kind of slow down on the upholstery of this piece just so you guys can really see how I do it and see that it's very easy to do. And that way maybe you guys will go out and attempt it on your own. And I know that some people are very intimidated by recovering upholstery because of the corners, or just they've never tried it before, so they're a little bit nervous. And I want you guys to feel more confident after watching this that you can do it yourself. I'm going to trim off the excess because I don't want that to stick out underneath the fabric that I'm going to put over. I like to make sure that the batting is a little bit inside where the end of the fabric will be. Now I'm going to use that infamous Gorilla Spray Glue, and I had to kind of blow on it a little bit to get it to get really tacky first. The leather is like a really slippery surface, so you can see here that I'm just blowing on it to help speed up the tackiness process. And the reason I had to do this was because the batting I had was not long enough to cover this huge bench. I'm telling you guys, this bench is massive. But I just put on another little scrap at the end, and then I'm gluing them down so that way you can't see the seam once I put the fabric on over top of this, and it worked like a charm. You know, sometimes when I'm experimenting like this, things don't turn out that great, but I would say that most of the time it does work out. So don't be afraid to try things and make it work with what you have. Now I'm going to go ahead and staple that fabric over top of the batting. And this is what I was talking about when I was telling you that I want the fabric to cover where the end of the batting is. That way if you were to happen to look underneath this bench for any reason, it looks professional. So this staple gun that I have is a Milwaukee staple gun. It's cordless, and if you were interested, I just wanted to let you know what it was. But I'm doing a little trick here where I fold in the end of the fabric. That way it gives it more of a finished look, kind of as if I had sewed the edge in. But I learned that from wrapping Christmas presents, and I just tried it out on my fabric upholstery jobs, and I love how that worked. Now here's how I do a corner with the actual upholstery, and it does take some finagling. So I'm not a professional upholsterer, and I'm just kind of learning as I'm going, just like you guys are. And I have learned that thicker fabrics are really difficult to do nice corners on. So this corner took a little bit of finesse here, and you'll see that it takes me a few tries to get that perfect 90-degree corner on the end. And there are different ways to do corners, so you can do kind of like a rounded, bunched look, or you can do this look, which I'm doing, where it's more of a like clean crease on the ends. And when I have thicker fabric or a more sharp edge, I like to do this type of corner on my pieces. And here is how I ended up getting that nice clean corner. And I just kind of pinched the little excess piece underneath, and you'll never see that part once we flip this right side up. All that pinched up part there is going to be underneath, completely covered by where you screw the piece back in. And then I just cut off that excess corner there because I want the seat to lay nice and flat when we screw it on. If you have like a big bulge there, then it'll kind of raise that area, and when you screw it in, there will be a gap. So you want to make sure you cut off anything like that. So here is the gold that I ended up using. It is my Krylon, and it is called Gold Leaf. Here's a kind of close-up look of how it looks out of the can. And when I put it into my paint gun, I watered it down a little bit. So when you're spraying with a paint gun, especially with an air compressor paint gun, you are going to want to thin it out to the consistency of milk. Going into this, I didn't know how well that this paint was going to spray out of my paint gun, and I just walked on the wild side a little bit and just went for it. But it goes on really thin and kind of blotchy, just the way it was thinned out. When you use regular gold spray paint, it comes out like extremely vibrant, and this one was not like that. And when you read the instructions on the can, there are no instructions for spraying it, and I think that is why, is because it does better when you roll it on. And I didn't want to roll it on because I prefer to spray. It's just faster and less messy, and I just thought it would have more of a perfect finish without any kind of like buildup or roller marks or anything like that. But here is my 10-year-old daughter spraying. I'm showing her how to do it. The part that she was having a little bit of a hard time with was moving the paint gun at the correct pace. So if you are first learning, that might be something that you would have a hard time with, and you can practice on pieces of cardboard until you get the right pace going to not get any drips or to get the best coverage. So it's really not that hard. No reason to be intimidated at all. But now that that's done, I think I did about 6 coats, and I didn't expect to have to do that many coats, but my husband helped me out here at the end to screw the seat back on because my wrists were very tired after all that work. And here's what we started with, just so we remember, and here's what we ended with. It looks so modern and pretty and classy, and I just love how it turned out. I ended up selling it for $50 on Facebook Marketplace. I had it listed higher, but with this huge size, it was just a hard piece to sell. But thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to hit subscribe down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!